Hey everyone, it's been a while since I've uploaded. I wanted to kind of get into how I started riding, but also my own justification for why I keep doing this. Despite having a lot of run-ins with the law, crashing, etc., basically having this obsessive hobby taking over my life. Before we get started, I gotta switch out the battery for the 748 that is there. Also, it is really nice weather, which is kind of rare now that it's like Halloween basically here in New York. So I'm gonna meet up with a few friends, then we're gonna go for a ride. Do a couple runs, show you around what it's like riding in this neck of the woods. Got Yausa battery. I guess I'll start from the beginning. Well, this strains a little bit. My coworker let me ride his dirt bike. I think it was like a DR200. It felt really fun, and I knew I needed to ride, but I was like 16 at the time. I didn't really have any money, and my parents did not want me to ride at all. So I found on Craigslist a Ninja 250 from 2005 with a clean title for $10, and it was literally a basket case. I didn't know anything about motorcycles. I didn't know anything about mechanics or like anything about this motorcycle at all. Basically, I just knew it had a clean title and it was in pieces and that I had a garage. So I asked my friend to give me a ride with his sedan, and we got it from this place in Astoria, not too far away. And it was like in the attic, and we brought it down in pieces. Like, I'm talking about, like, the frame was apart from the engine, the electrical harness was apart, the forks were apart. I didn't have any idea of how long it would take to build a bike. I never really had patience as a kid, but I was really stubborn. After a lot of YouTube forums, I eventually figured out how to do this thing, and just figured it out, and I got it running, and that kind of started everything. It was kind of like one of the best things I ever did, because I was younger. I was like the student that just never really tried very hard at all. Really wasn't in school much. I didn't have much patience, kind of was really impulsive. Mentally, this was one thing that I saw it through, and that kind of changed how I saw a lot of things going forward. Fast forward, the second bike I got was a project bike, but the only thing wrong with it was a fuse. So after I got that bike, I really started riding, and then just kept buying bikes. Eventually I went on some really cool trips. When I started touring, which I did with this 2001 BMW R1100S, I think this was around the time that I was close to graduating from school. Before I started this next job, or this next internship, or this next job, I asked to take a couple weeks off, and I packed up camping gear into that bike and hit the road. It was the first time I did any sort of trip like that. On this trip, I ended up doing 7,000 miles in 2 weeks, going from New York City to Yellowstone and back, and putting on so many miles, meeting so many nice people, showed me how small the world can be. It makes me think about all the other places in the world I could visit and how many of them are just not as far as I thought they were. And on the way back from this trip, I ended up getting 4 tickets, which cost me thousands of dollars in lawyer fees and was a huge inconvenience to say the least, but the trip itself was something I'll never regret. Alright. Time to test it out. Alright, we're good with that. I want to show some other projects I have. These are frames for 1970 Norton Commando 750. And the engine part here, so I rebuilt the bottom half, but I had to take it apart because the end float was slightly off, or just measurements were slightly off. That's been a really fun project that I've been learning about. That needs a new transmission because I blew the clutch and then the gearbox. And then this here, I'm gonna take this Power Wheels thing and turn it into a go-kart. Basically a lot of kids' toys kind of things that I've just never kind of grew out of and was always obsessed with. But yeah, now that we got the battery running, the belts I did recently, and then the coolant reservoir I did recently, brakes are good, tires are good. Let's go suit up. All right, guys, I'm a bit sleep deprived. We're gonna go meet up with a friend who over the past year has helped to rebuild this old electric motocross bike. So we're gonna go do some test shots. We're going to film around, just kind of like mess around with it a little bit. All right, I gotta take the bike out, warm it up, suit up, and then we'll head over there. So this is Gene, and he's a beast at tinkering and Frankenstein together this old electric dirt bike, which we were planning to turn into a filming platform. But first we gotta do some early tests. I think tinkering is one of the funnest things to do, not just when it comes to bikes and mechanics, but being able to experiment and learn how things work is always extremely fun. And it also helps make a world a much more interesting place. Like the fact that this bike is strapped with a commercial plain seatbelt is not something I could ever just buy at a store, but it's probably one of my favorite features on this bike. I think we all have our own reasons for why we ride and what we get from it, but something tells me that there's a deep reason as to why we feel like we have to, and that's hard for others to truly understand.